I'm not thrilled with the topic of overqualified. Apologies to JJ. It's like a really horrible capitalist term, if you ask me, right? Like, what does overqualified mean? About 6 years ago, I took a job. I had a master's degree in higher education administration, and I took a job as an administrative assistant. And I had a blast. And when they were interviewing me, they're like, so, like, how long do you think you're going to stay? Because you're, like, a little overqualified. And I was like, listen, I carry the health insurance for my family. Nobody else is working at the moment. You got me. Trust me. And it's all this, like, capitalism, right? Like, my resume is all dazzling, and all I wanted was a steady paycheck and a clear head. And in the time that I worked at that job, I published 2 novels, which is what I really want to be doing with my life. And the professors that I was working for were lovely. They were like, can you please make copies? And I'm like, yeah, that's my job. And they're like, oh, but you have a master's degree. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And so we finally got to a point where, like, they would actually ask me to do my job, and I would do my job. And then sometimes they would buy me potato chips to thank me for doing my job, which was the best because I run on praise and potato chips. But it was really lovely to sort of have a clear head. I, came in the morning. I didn't check my email at home. No one had my cell phone number, and I just got to be me and with my family. So overqualified is like this term that just makes me feel icky. And I think that there's a difference between overqualified on paper and overqualified in reality. So when I was pregnant with my eldest child, I had a very difficult labor. So I labored for 24 hours at home and then went to the hospital and labored for probably another 8 hours. I did get an epidural. It was misplaced. Anyone ever had a misplaced epidural? So yeah, we should talk, right? So one side of my body had enough drugs in it to numb an elephant, and the other side of my body could feel everything that was happening. And rather than replacing the epidural, they just kept sort of tilting me. And I was like, guys, this is like not working. And I wasn't progressing. Like she wasn't coming out. And finally, my doula, who is lovely, said, why don't you try to get up on your knees? If you've ever seen a hospital bed, they sit right up, right? So I'm on my knees, and I have my arms on the back of the hospital bed, and I'm finally starting to make progress, or I should say Nora is finally starting to make progress. And at this point, there's no epidural left in me because they had to turn it off. They had to turn the medicine off so that I could even push because this side of my body was done. So I now have a 36-hour labor, no epidural in me. I know lots of you do it without it. That was never going to be me until it was. And I'm up on my hands and knees, and I'm finally making progress. And my doula says to the nurse, I think it's 1 or 2 more pushes. And the nurse says, we'll flip her over. And my doula said the only way she's been making any progress, I'd been pushing for 4 hours. The only way she's making any progress is up on her hands and knees. And the nurse goes, he won't deliver her like that. And that's when we find out that there had been a shift change during my labor. And instead of the woman who I had seen during my pregnancy, there was now some man I had never met before in my life. And he would not deliver me on my knees, even though that is a completely natural way to have a child. So we're getting close. 1 more push. It's going to happen. They turn me over for the doctor. Nora comes out, and the doctor's nowhere to be found. So I then have an uncontrolled birth. And when they finally get him in the room, this is what he does. I need my gloves. I need my size 7 gloves. I need my gloves. Where are my gloves? I have a child sticking out between my legs. They get him his gloves. I deliver my beautiful baby girl. Everything's lovely. I go back for my postpartum checkup. Turns out that dude retired 2 weeks after he delivered my baby. I'm sure he is overqualified, but he sucked.